WTCC News. My name is McKenna. Today is Friday, February 14th, 2014. Our top story over Black History Month will be coming up in a few minutes. But first, let's go to Andrea with the weather.
Thanks, McKenna. It looks like we are going to have a snowy day today. We will have a 30% chance of precipitation today and a 10% chance this evening. Winds will be coming from the west at 12 miles per hour. The humidity will be at 74% today. The moon phase will be full. The UV will be at 3 today, which is moderate. Look for the sunset today around 5:25 p.m. We will have a high of 40 and an overnight low of 25. That's today's weather. Back to you, McKenna.
Andrea. Today's lunch choices are first choice Crispio with cheese sauce, second choice deli ham and cheese, third choice PB&J. Now to Emma with this day in history.
Thanks, McKenna. This day in history, February 14th, 1809, Robert Fulton patented the steamboat. 1970, Japan became the fourth country to put satellite into orbit. That'll happen this day in history. Back to you, McKenna,
with the 7 Habit Spotlight.
McKenna. Welcome to the 7 Habit Spotlight. This week we found a 4th grader named Lily. She was following this month's habit, Be Proactive. She was nominated for being proactive by her teacher, Miss Jennings. She nominated this habit in the classroom. I took a moment to speak with Lily about being proactive. How are you using this month?
Habit 1, be proactive.
How are you using this habit?
Being nice to friends.
Thank you for talking to us. Follow the 7 habits. If you're caught following 7 habits, you can find yourself on the 7 Habit Spotlight. Teachers, if you would like to nominate one of your students for following the 7 habits, please let me or Mr. Summers know. Back to you, McKenna.
What happened this week in TC Cherry Happenings? red and hide behind a tree.
What?
And a embarrassed elephant. Now to Alana with today's top story.
Thanks, McKenna. This month is February, and February is Black History Month. I know about Black History Month, but not a lot. So I decided to ask Miss Jennings, the 5th grade and 4th grade social studies teacher, about Black History Month. Hi, I'm here with Miss Jennings, the 5th grade social studies teacher for 4th and 5th grade. What is Black History Month?
Well, Black History Month is a whole month of celebration for the African American people who live in our country. And it basically started in 1915, and that was almost 100 years ago. You would think that it would have started even earlier than that, though, because our people that came from Africa came over even much earlier than 1915. But in 1915, we had a man named Carter Woodson. And Carter Woodson had a dream that people would all want to celebrate this history of their people, of the African American people. And so he went to Washington, D.C. to a protest, and through that work of that protest, they started a week, a Black History Week. Well, Carter hoped that that week would turn into an even longer amount of time. And fortunately, that happened for him, and now we have Black History Month. Now, he had actually wanted people to celebrate Black History throughout the entire year, that it wouldn't just become one separate week or one separate month, but it would be a part of everybody's everyday life, that we would all be conscious of each other's backgrounds and our heritages, and to be respectful of that, and to appreciate it, and to study it so that we could appreciate it even more. And you know, to be honest with you, he had written that he didn't think it would ever happen. But I think that if he could see us now, he would be pretty happy with what is happening in the United States and in other parts of the world, with respect for lots of nationalities and ethnicities.
What books would you recommend for people who want to learn about the Black History Month?
Well, Alana, I just so happen to have a few books with me that I think are pretty fantastic choices. I'll start with a couple of books that were written about people who were enslaved. These people had to work for others. They actually belonged to another person. And this is kind of how our African American history starts for this country, unfortunately. This one is about Harriet Tubman. You may have heard of her before. They called her Minty when she was younger. And it tells all about her childhood and her dreams of becoming a free person. And it has won some awards. Another one about a young boy who wanted to get away from slavery is Henry's Freedom Box. In this particular book, Henry mails himself to the North to escape slavery. So it's a pretty exciting book. It won the Caldecott Honor Book, so it's a good one. And then skipping forward a little bit, now those books were about enslaved people. This book is about Rosa Parks. And we know that Rosa was not enslaved, but she lived in a time when even though people were free, they still weren't treated equally. And so Rosa decided she wasn't going to be treated that way. And you can read about her story of a famous bus incident in this book by Nikki Giovanni. And it also is a Caldecott Honor book. It's a really, really well done book. Another book that you might want to read about is in the same era as Rosa Parks, and that is about Martin Luther King Jr. And this is a good chapter book for some of you guys that like to read chapter books. I also picked just a couple of books that were about people who didn't have anything to do with like a civil rights movement or with slavery. These are just some really famous African American people, and I picked Duke Ellington because he was a famous musician. He was really fantastic, and so much of America's music, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, so much of our music stems from the African American culture that I think it's important we all study about African American music, and Duke Ellington is really famous for jazz. Another famous African American is Jackie Robinson, and he was a baseball player. And I think we note that here in the United States, a lot of our African Americans in the sports world become very famous. This particular book is about two teammates who played together, and they sort of taught the world a good lesson about how it really doesn't matter what your ethnicity is, it really doesn't matter what color your skin is, or your hair, or your eyes, or whatever color your t-shirt is, we can all get along. So this is a great one too.
Thanks for talking to us.
You're welcome, Alana.
That's our scoop on Black History Month. I hope you all make important history in your lives. Back to you, McKenna. Thanks, Alana. Clear Day is coming up on February 20th. Digitally